Wondering what a dividend actually is? Well, watch on. As business accountants, my team and I spend all day long helping business owners on their journey. And one of the things we see a lot is owners worrying that they're asking stupid questions or silly questions. And the answer is you're not. Please do ask these kind of questions. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, is it's a common one where I think people hear the term, in the small business world, they hear the term dividend and they don't really understand what it means and they're worried about it. And you can see that from the amount of times people search it on Google. It is quite a common question. So if you're here, well done for seeking out the knowledge, and I'm going to explain to you what it is. And of course, I'm going to talk mainly about this in the small business world as a small business owner and in that sort of sense, because dividends apply to a wide spectrum of things, but it's the same sort of idea. So before I get into it, if you like these type of videos, make sure to click the subscribe button below to get notified whenever we release another one just like it. So dividends, what are they? Well, in essence, it's just a payment of profit from a company to the people that are the shareholders or the owners. So let's just say that again. So it's profit, you got some profit in a company that you have some sort of ownership in. So you own the shares and then that profit comes out. That's dividend. That's kind of it at a basic level, but how does it affect you as a small business owner, I think, is more important to talk about, and why it comes up quite a lot. Now, the reason this happens, and it's discussed a lot, is because in the small business world, in the UK, it's quite an efficient way to pay yourself. So it's quite normal that what will happen is you'll have a small salary as a business owner. So let's just say you've started up a new limited company, you're the owner, so you're the shareholder, you're the owner, and you are also possibly the director. They don't have to be, but generally that's the setup. You're the owner and the director. So you'll quite often have a very small director's salary, and you might have the rest of your sort of, I don't want to use the word wages because that's where people get into trouble, but the rest of the money you might draw from the bank account that month quite often is then classed as dividend. Now there's certain paperwork I'll touch on in a minute that needs to be in place for that to be the case, but generally that's how people like to do it. And the reason that is that if you add up all the different taxes that you would pay by doing that, it's normally less than it would be if you just ran your salary through payroll like you might have been used to having in your employed job. And a lot of that's to do with the fact that national insurance isn't in play on dividends. So that's why that occurs, that's why it's talked about a lot and why you kind of need to know about it. But in terms of actually paying them, people often say, like, how do I pay dividends? Well, in reality, you just draw it from your bank account, your company bank account into your personal account, and that's kind of it from a practical point. But in order for it to be kind of legal, you need various bits of paperwork. You need to decide what type of dividend it is. And again, I'm not going to go into the technicalities too much in this video because it is kind of just a summary one, but there is something called an interim dividend and a final dividend. And for most owners, they're going to pay interim dividends. So you can pay those as frequently as you like. So you could have one every day if you wanted. You could have one several times a day if you wanted, providing you had the paperwork in place. But the reality of it is a lot of people, kind of take it monthly or, throughout the month. And all you've got to do is make sure that you had enough profits on paper to pay that dividend. So that means keeping good accounting records, and if you've got an accountant, I'm sure they'll be able to help you out with that. And then making sure that you've got some sort of note of the decision. So like I know it sounds odd, but you almost need some meeting minutes to say that you sat down and discussed it with yourself and you were going to officially pay a dividend from the company. And then you want some proof that those things were possible to pay. So, some proof of the accounts had some profits on them. So a print from your software or print from your last accounts, those kind of things. And then of course, when you have paid them, there's some tax on those dividends generally. So currently at the time of recording this video, you get £2,000 a year of dividends from all sources tax-free. So if you've got some investments in the stock market that pay dividends and they're outside of kind of like a stocks and shares ISA or something like that, that's going to eat into that £2,000. But if you're just thinking that's my only income from dividends from a company, the first £2,000 is tax-free. And then what happens after that, it depends on where you are on the income. There's something called basic rate, higher rate and additional rate. It's different levels of tax you get in the UK. So you might hear people referring to, I'm in the 40% bracket. That's what people call the higher rate. Generally, it's around 50k, it's just a little bit higher, but when you start earning over that kind of amount, you'll then start paying in your normal job 40%. Dividends are only taxed at 32.5%. But below that kind of 50k limit in the basic rate, they're only 7.5%. And that's where where the sweet spot is. Most people like to keep them in that around. And for most small business owners, that's where they're going to be. So as a result, you're going to need to kind of think in your head of some of this money I'm withdrawing from the company, there is a little bit of a personal tax bill attached to it. But there are certainly some savings to have, especially when you're a startup, by making sure that you use that £2,000 allowance. And we've done various blogs on our website, I'll link them down below, and also some other videos on the channel where we talk about those things. But so there are lots of ways to save tax using dividends, and that's why people get excited. But at its heart, all a dividend is the company paying out some of its profits to you, and you just got to make sure that they were legally able to come to you and that you got the relevant paperwork in place. So that's it, dividends in under a few minutes. See you in the next one.